Going right to left. The kick is up, and the kick is good!
Hello and welcome to the inaugural episode of the Special Teams Report. I'm your host, Thomas Hollander, here with our chief contributor, Ben Domagalski. In today's episode, we're going to start our series in which we analyze NFL teams and their rosters, and we're going to make record predictions for the 2020 season. We start with the AFC North defending champions, the Baltimore Ravens. We're going to start by reviewing their player personnel and discuss some of their offseason moves. Then we're going to get to a debate. Could Lamar Jackson actually be the weakness to the Baltimore Ravens? Stay tuned for that and our final predictions. And now I'm going to bring you in with our chief contributor, Ben Domagalski.
Hey, Tom, how are you doing? I mean, the first thing you really look at is from last season, their pulling offense, especially the run game. I mean, it starts with Lamar Jackson, but it's a real group effort on that unit. And it starts up front. I mean, I went back and watched 6 games from last season, and I got to watch a lot of Ronnie Stanley against some of the premier pass rushers in the league, whether it be Bud Dupree, Pittsburgh, or Myles Garrett in Cleveland. I think he really held his own, and he had a great season. He was very deserving of the accolades he got. That line is going to be a little different for the first time in a long time. Not going to have Marshall Yanda on it this year. But I like what the Ravens did, bringing in DJ Fluker, a guy with experience who might be a Band-Aid almost to that guard role, but a guy who will come in and be a suitable starter. And they went and drafted 2 offensive linemen too, so I think they're already ahead of the game trying to fix that spot. I mean, the offensive line is very key. They have a great tight end room, starting with Mark Andrews. I mean, he's an elite wide receiver playing tight end. I think best receiving tight end in the league, and that does count George Kittle too. And then I am one of the people who I think love Nick Boyle more than anyone in the football world. I think this guy is one of the best blockers at the tight end position you can find out there. Everyone remembers that Lamar run where he spun in Cincinnati. If you look at the start of that play, Nick Boyle came in motion, had a cut block on the outside linebacker that opened up that huge hole. So I think he has a huge contribution in their run game. Wide receivers, I think both Boykin and Hollywood Brown take big steps here too. And then, again, a very deep running back room with Mark Ingram, J.K. Dobbins, who we're going to touch on a little later in the episode, and Gus Edwards, all of them very talented.
Yeah, I mean, kind of following suit with what you said, they're one of the teams in the league where you could make a case for almost every one of their starters on offense. I'm not going to include the linemen because I would have no clue what I'm talking about. But like their receivers, their tight ends, their running backs, their quarterback all fit their offensive scheme. Like their air attack is mostly to like their big body receivers / tight ends with Boyle and Andrews. Once in a while they'll throw the long bomb to their speedster Hollywood Brown. But like really with the ground and pound with their run game, they have 2 great tight ends who are very good blockers. As you said, Boyle is one of the top blocking tight ends in the game. They have 2 like tried and true ground and pound running backs in Ingram and Dobbins. Plus they have like pretty much you can make a case he's their speed back in Lamar.
I think he was their leading rusher last year. I could be wrong on that. But I mean, again, Ingram, Dobbins, Gus Edwards, all very big, like powerful downhill runners. I mean, Lamar is, even though he's a quarterback, he makes people miss an open field better than most running backs do. So I agree with you. He gives them more of an agile runner.
We also can't forget about how good their defense is too. They have one of the premier elite secondaries. They have Humphrey, Peters, Clark, and Thomas, plus some of their offseason acquisitions. Derek Wolfe coming in from the Broncos and that Calais Campbell trade to help that defensive line. Do you have any comments about the defense?
I thought it was a good move to sign Derek Wolfe to a 1-year deal, especially at his age, but 1 year, prove it. He had 7 sacks last year, so I think he can come in and contribute a bit. Also, I thought it was a really good move by them to franchise Matthew Judon. And then I really like their first round pick. With the 28th pick, they took Patrick Queen. And, I mean, he's a very talented young linebacker. He's going to play in the middle. He's a little undersized for the NFL, but, I mean, he's fast. He scrapes the line very well, recognizes and hits where he's got to be. So, I mean, I think he's undersized. That's the weakness people are going to point out. I think that'll help that he's in the Ravens defense. They play 3-4, so hopefully you're hoping, whether it be Dalen Mack or Brandon Williams, that your nose is gonna like wrap up those interior alignments so they don't have a clean shot on him at the second level. But I think he'll come in and make a year one contribution in that defense.
I kind of want to talk about their second round pick. Running back out of Ohio State University, J.K. Dobbins. Not exactly a burner, more of a one cut back, but he does fit their running scheme exemplary well. I see a lot of similarities between him and Mark Ingram. They're both downhill, powerful backs. Ingram, I think he's 30 right now at the time of recording. He's got 2 more years under contract. I see Ingram as more of like almost a bridge. Dobbins is going to be able to learn from a player of Ingram's caliber from that same skill set. And I feel like he's going to, 2 years, he's going to be their premier, maybe an elite running back.
Another pick I liked from the Ravens was one of their third round picks, Devin Duvernay. He's a receiver from Texas. He's more of a slot guy. He's 5'10". He's nice, especially a big guy. That's one thing the Ravens do have a lot of size with Snead and Boykins. But I think he'll give him some versatility in the slot. He's a fast guy, and I think he'll contribute to their offense. Willie Snead primarily played the slot last year for them, and I think he's still a pretty good performing NFL receiver. So I don't expect him to see the field a ton this year. Probably split reps with Snead, be behind him, but I think he'll be a good contributor down the line for them.
Baltimore's been drafting well as of recently. The success in that front office has transitioned from Ozzie Newsome to Eric DeCosta. And while they don't make a lot of bold offseason moves, they make some smaller ones, which help them grow as the team, and ultimately they could push to be a contender this year. Probably the most notable was the trade for Calais Campbell from Jacksonville. I think he'll do well. Although he has aged, his numbers are still there, and he is a great leader on any team that he'll play on.
Again, as I mentioned earlier, they also brought in former Bronco Derek Wolfe, and he had 7 sacks last year, which I think was the best in his career. And I don't see him sustaining those numbers from last year, but he's a good veteran signing who I think will also be a leader in that locker room. And the last signing that, again, I touched on earlier that I liked was the Fluker one. And I don't think you can replace the perennial Pro Bowler and Marshall Yanda like that. But I think Fluker will come in and he'll be a capable starting guard for you. One thing we got to remember to talk about, we are the special teams report. Tom, you're a kicker. In my opinion, Justin Tucker is the best kicker in the game. What are your comments on him?
You put it best kicker in the game. He's got like high 90s for accuracy. I think he's number 1 in terms of accuracy. Almost all time.
He's just one of those guys in the league, like a lot of kickers. You watch their stride, but you don't even just watch him when he kicks. You gotta listen. I mean, the way he strikes the ball is best in the league. I mean, you can hear it as if you were holding the ball 2 feet away from where he's kicking it, even on TV. I mean, the way he strikes the ball shows how elite he is. And I mean, his accuracy, I think he is the most accurate kicker in the history of the NFL. Again, I could be wrong on that one.
I think he was perfect on PATs up until that. Was it the Saints game?
They lost the Saints. He missed an extra point, but yeah.
I mean, he is human, but honestly, if I could choose one kicker all time to make a 50-yarder to save my life, it'd have to be Tucker 10 times out of 10.
I mean, their whole special teams, obviously he's the big name there, but I mean, the special teams unit was very good last year. And they had D'Anthony Thomas as a return man later in the year. They had Chris Moore in the past, who I thought is a decent return man. So, I mean, I'm pretty sure John Harbaugh was once a special teams coach. So, obviously, we love the special teams roots. We're special teams guys. But, again, I mean, it's a third of the game. They can't dispute it. So, I think the Ravens really, at that facet of the game, above a lot of the teams in the league.
How we like to say here on the Special Teams Report, special teams wins championships.
Ask Scott Norwood.
Ask Scott Norwood. Ask Adam Vinatieri, the one Saints guy, I forgot his name, to send them to the Super Bowl. A kicker will make or break your season.
Very well could. That's a true statement. All right, Tom, though, enough about special teams. Now, I know your feelings about Lamar Jackson. Explain what you see to us.
This might be a freezing cold take 2 years from now, but the reigning NFL MVP in my eyes is a system quarterback. You look at the numbers and take out his rushing yards, which are like astronomical. I don't think he's going to be able to reproduce those rushing numbers, as all the teams are going to like study his film, study how to stop him, slow him down, neutralize him, make him throw out of the pocket. Him and 2015 Tyrod Taylor had almost the exact same throwing stats. Granted, Lamar had like 16 more passing touchdowns, but the yards per game basically the same, 8 yards off.
Yeah, I agree with you in some sense that I mean he fits Greg Roman's system very well as a athletic quarterback, as Tyrod and Cap were, but I think he's more than a system quarterback. I mean, I think if you take away the running game, he's an above average passer and definitely not an elite quarterback, but I still think he has some talent passing the ball. Um, but I think you're right in the sense that under the Greg Roman system, that benefits him more. I don't think it's fair to Tyrod Taylor for him to be put in the same group as Lamar because Lamar's just, I mean, he's a better quarterback. We watched a
Well,
lot of Tyrod.
Well, I did watch a lot of Tyrod, and Tyrod Taylor put up 216.78 yards per game in 2015, with his receivers being who? Like Charles Clay,
Sammy Watkins,
yeah, what
Robert
like
Woods.
first or second year Sammy Watkins, Chris Hogan. But Lamar Jackson had Hollywood Brown, Mark Andrews, and he put up 208 passing yards a game.
I almost guarantee, though, Lamar had more rushing yards a game.
Tyrod did have like half the rushing yards that Lamar Jackson did.
I mean, 16 passing touchdowns is a pretty big difference. That's an extra passing touchdown a game. So, I mean, I think there's a difference there. And I like Tyrod. I think Tyrod's a capable NFL quarterback, but I think Lamar, even if teams start to figure out on him a little bit, I think he's got just his athleticism is a real barrier for defenses, and I think he'll be fine in the long run, even if he is out of the system.
I think one of the major problems that Lamar Jackson is going to have to face is towards the end of the season, everybody saw like almost a decline in his stats. The teams almost found a way to kind of halt the Ravens offense. Like, say for example, the Chargers in the 2018 wildcard game. Once the Ravens were forced to pass, it showed a severe weakness in Lamar's game at the time and an over-reliance to run for their offense.
Yeah, I agree with that. Chargers were really the first defense to make Lamar look human in his rookie year. And I think later in the season, some teams really were able to break down that film and give him more issues. Obviously, earlier in the season, he was tearing it up. But if you really look at Week 14 in Buffalo, the Bills and Sean McDermott, Leslie Frazier, their defensive coordinator, they were able to put 7 men in the box. They play a 4-3, so 4 down linemen, 3 linebackers, and they brought their safety, Jordan Poyer, down to cover tight end one-on-one, and they played blanket cover 3 over the top. So, I mean, that was very successful. I think Lamar was under 200 yards in total yards for the whole game, and Mark Ingram was shut down primarily in that game. There is risk to that defense, though, too. If I'm sure Ravens fans, you remember Hayden Hurst had like a 60-something yard touchdown that game because Poyer got caught up with the linebackers and Hurst was wide open across the middle on a crossing route. That like almost emphasized that, okay, this strategy is at least somewhat effective against this Ravens offense, and it can slow them down a little bit. I don't know what you think about
yeah,
that.
I mean, it came to one of the very last plays in the last seconds of the game. And I mean, Marcus Peters' hand, like, if you move Marcus Peters' hands 6 inches down, the Bills win that game. Logan Ryan even admitted the Titans used the Buffalo Bills scheme against the Ravens in the divisional playoff game where they upsetted the Ravens. And the blueprint so far for stopping the Ravens is out there, and it's pretty much worked. The Ravens' offensive staff is going to have to find solutions to help spread out defenses, whether that be like almost running 4 verticals more, or having Lamar have like an emphasis on staying in the pocket and then like kind of switching out throughout the game what they're going to do.
Yeah, I think if they already do a ton of this, but bringing guys in motion, I mean, make the defense adjust like very quickly, like pre-snap, right before the ball's about to be snapped. I think I mean, I don't want you guys, Ravens fans, to think that we're criticizing the Ravens offense or Lamar himself. I mean, he was the MVP last year. They had a prolific offense. I mean, I think when we were looking through weaknesses for this team, I think compared to a team like the Redskins, where there's like this many weaknesses, Ravens, like there's very few. But this team, I think they have the roster to win a Lombardi trophy. And I think we're just trying to figure out like the little things that'll help them get over the hump. Because I mean, it's back-to-back years where they got to the first, played in the first playoff game in the first round, whether it was the wild card or the division this past season. And teams were able to scheme against Lamar and slow that running game down, and then they got behind in the games and had the pass. And I mean, you're done for the year, regardless of the great season they had. So I mean, that's really what we're looking. We just don't. I want to put a disclaimer out that we're not just looking to trash on the Ravens, but it's just part of our analysis.
My prediction, I have them going 11-5, making the playoffs. But my losses for the Ravens are Kansas City, at Philadelphia, at Pittsburgh, and I have them losing one of the games, I don't know, home or away, against the Browns, and I have them losing the last game of the season. I think it's the home game against the Bengals because they're already going to have the playoffs clinched and they're going to be at 10-5, which I don't think is going to be able to like secure either number 1 or 2 in the AFC. So I think they'll sit a lot of people. Joe Burrow might have a field day. You know, he's going to be starting all season long, and usually rookies start coming into their own very late in the season. So I think Joe Burrow might be able to pull the upset. I mean, the kid had the best college, season in history.
I have a little better record for them. I have them going 13-3. I think they'll repeat as the AFC North champions. And if you guys end up watching our Browns video later this week or early next week, I mean, I'm very high on the Browns. My only losses for them, I think Tom had these in his two, were against Kansas City and Philadelphia, and then at Pittsburgh. I think all three of those games are winnable for them. In the Chiefs game, I mean, they're the defending Super Bowl champs, and I respect 15 a little more than 8 right now. And I think if the Ravens got to win that game, they're going to have to run the ball on the Chiefs, which I think they're very capable of. And then Philly game, again, I think Philadelphia is just a tough place to play, and they have a talented roster. And then Pittsburgh, likewise. I think they're Super Bowl contenders as long as they stay healthy and address some of these minor kinks we just discussed with versatility in their offense. Tom, do you think they're Super Bowl contenders? Like, what's your take on that?
Yeah, I think they're I don't think they're the front runners or like, top 2 in the AFC to make the Super Bowl, but I wouldn't be surprised if they do. Like, I have hottest teams in the AFC. I have Chiefs at number 1, Bills at number 2, Ravens at 3. But the Bills and Ravens are kind of like interchangeable. I just would not be surprised if they do make Super Bowl 55 down in Tampa.
The Chiefs are the superior team in the AFC. I think they're just the top dog. I still think the Ravens are a little better than Bills. I mean, both of them have very deep rosters, but I think at this point in their career, Josh Allen is not to the level Lamar is right now. And I think the Ravens have a better offense just as a whole. Like, their offensive roster is better. I think the Bills will have to make steps if they're going to be on the Ravens level. I mean, I think my prediction I had them being the 2 seed, and they were tied with Kansas City in record, but the tiebreaker went to the Chiefs because they beat Baltimore in week 3. So, I mean, I think they're very capable of playing in the AFC Championship game and winning it and going to Tampa to play in the Super Bowl. I just think that, again, minor kinks that, I mean, they're this close to the Lombardi trophy. They have the talent, they got the roster, they have the coaching. And I think it's either going to come to fruition for them or it's just going to fall flat another year. And I'd bet more on them at least getting to the AFC Championship this year.
See, I don't really think Lamar can like kind of elevate the team in big games. We saw like both of his playoff games kind of shit the bed, so to speak. He didn't really perform well, and the Titans forced him to. They basically said, if you're gonna beat us, you're gonna beat us with your arm. They made him throw 59 passes. He had a 50 something completion percentage, more interceptions than touchdowns that game.
I mean, that game was tough for them. Also, they got behind in that game. I mean, that's one thing I do think about them. I mean, the Chiefs is shown in the postseason last year they can be behind by quite a bit, and I mean they can throw their way back into the game. I don't see that with the Ravens. I'm afraid if they're up on you, I'm afraid if they're even with you. If you're ahead on them by double digits, I'm not as afraid because I just think it's tougher for them with their offense to make up points on you. But I mean, again, I think their defense is significantly better than Kansas City. I just think Kansas City's offense is so powerful that I think in the AFC it'd be the Ravens because if you're able to run the ball and keep Mahomes and the Chiefs offense off the field, I mean, that's a weapon in itself.
It wasn't really like a toss-up. Like, Lamar put up basically 6 points in the first 3 quarters of that game, and then another 6 in garbage time fourth quarter. I just think in big games, I don't think the Ravens really have what it takes to pull through.
Their defense is legit again, and I mean they have a lot of talent on offense at pretty much every position. So I mean, I don't question Lamar's ability to perform in big games yet. I mean, I have to see another bad playoff game to really start questioning that. But I think the secret for them is in those games you can't get down because then I think it's tough for them to come back. All right, guys. Well, that's a wrap for us. If you like what you saw, hit the like button. If you have any disagreements with what we said about Lamar or the Ravens at all, either you thought we were too positive or too negative, comment below and let us know. Thanks, guys. Have a great day.
Adios.